Season 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race is here, and tonight we got to meet 7 of the 14 queens from this season and saw our first elimination of the season. I'm kind of curious if the 2 queens that go home in week 1 and week 2 are going to have an opportunity to possibly lip sync against each other and have one of them come back or not. We will have to see. I'm always not a fan of someone going home week 1. But I was a big fan of only having half the queens because I feel like I got to know everyone a little bit better, got to see a little bit more from each of the queens, and really I left tonight's episode much more excited about seeing more from just our 6 remaining queens from this episode than I have been in the past few seasons. Let's jump into a little bit of first impressions, just go over like that first vibe I kind of got from the people and who I was liking right out of the start. First off, my very first note is Carrie Colby is absolutely stunning, drop dead gorgeous. Willow Pill looked very nervous, and as the episode progressed, you could kind of see that the other queens kind of had pegged Willow as one of the weaker competitors in the competition. She just looked so nervous. The look didn't look super polished right out of the gate. Cornbread came in pretty hot, and looks like Cornbread has enough personality for the entire season. Right out of the gate, I was a little worried. I was hoping for not like the Silky Nutmeg vibe where Silky kind of came in and was just obnoxious. And some people like that, some people don't. I was on the don't, and I was hoping to not get that from Cornbread. I like the big personality, but I also like it when people are just nice to each other. And as we got deeper into the episode, just felt like Cornbread is just like a good, genuine person, and I really like seeing it. Alyssa Hunter, as soon as I heard the name, I felt like I'd heard that name before. Maybe could be misremembering something, maybe have heard her name, but she looks very polished, very much is going to be the look queen or one of the look queens from our first group of 7. Background in pageants, looks like she has won several pageants in Puerto Rico for herself. I'm very interested to see what she can bring. From the first impressions of the first 7, I would say June and Willow looked like the bottom 2. This was at the start of the episode, so cut me a little bit of slack. I think most people watching probably at least originally felt the same. Orion and Bosco were kind of landed in the middle for me on the first impressions. Seemed like there was some potential there, but always, I was kind of a little bit skeptical because I just felt like we didn't quite get enough from that first impression for those 2. Carrie, Cornbread, and Alyssa gave me the best first impressions and are right out of the gate. Probably a toss-up between Carrie and Cornbread for my favorite queen. Spinning photo shoot. I was watching, it's what everybody else watched, and like I saw Carrie and I was like, oh, I feel so bad for you, Carrie. That outfit is just going everywhere. Your photo shoot, it looks like it's a total disaster. And then all of a sudden she wins. I'm like, what? I was thinking, it looked like Rue had a little bit of a vibe with Willow and Cornbread, and I thought that was going to be more of a determining factor for who was going to get that first win. But all of a sudden, Carrie was getting the win, and I thought, how did they even get a photo without half of her dress in her face? Because what we were shown, that was all we saw. All right, let's jump into that talent show. We opened the show with June Jambalaya, and The dance was just okay. You know, she came out with a lot of energy, had us all hooked in right at the start, and then it just kind of fizzled. The more we watched, the more we saw little details that just weren't quite there. The headband falling down on her face, the bike shorts underneath, and you know, definitely came up as one of the weaker performances and ultimately landed her in the bottom two. Bosco, you know, I was watching, I was interested, but I wasn't sure, was that a burlesque or was that just a straight up strip show? You know, there's nothing wrong if that's your talent. You know, I think it was a UK season maybe, and one of the queens had some pole dancing experience, and when she used it, it was amazing. Can't remember the queen. If somebody's out there, maybe comment and let me know. But you know, I like that. You know, it can be very interesting, very cool. But you know, this is kind of somewhere to me between burlesque and a strip show, and kind of felt like it just landed in the middle of the pack. Interesting, but definitely not a showstopper. Alyssa Hunter, I really liked this idea. I liked what she was going for, and to me, for a talent show, this was a good idea. The guitar felt like it may be a weird choice. Didn't really feel like it added anything to the performance, but ultimately, when it came time for the critiques, the judges really felt like they didn't get to know her. And at the time watching it, I didn't really think of that. But, you know, that is part of the show. The first few weeks, it's so important for people to sell their brand, for them to for us to get to know them. And Alyssa's performance did not do that. You look at the first look into the workroom, the look on the runway, they do not match up with what we saw on the talent stage, and that almost landed her in the bottom this week. To me, having her that low felt more like a wake up call than actually her being at risk, because pretty clear to me that who our bottom two were this week. But next up, we have Carrie Colby. I like this because it was creative. It wasn't just taking like, hey, I'm good at jump rope. I'm going to do some jump rope. It took that jump rope and it combined it with drag. She took that talent, combined it with what the show is, took something, you know, from who she is, from something from her childhood growing up, and sold it to us, mixed it with drag, and it was very good. You know, she could have got a little bit more into the jump rope. Like when the performance first started, I honestly forgot that she was going to do the jump rope, even though she had said that's what she was going to do. So when she actually got into the jump rope, that's when I got into the performance a little bit more. She did make a little mistake with the jump rope at the end, but very forgivable because that did not look easy up there. Next up, Orion Story. Oh, Orion, like I just felt like we were waiting for the punchline. Like you had the good hot chamber, a hot one in the chamber. I don't know the exact line. Hot one in the chamber line. That was kind of funny. But the rest of the time, it just felt like we were just waiting for the punchline. Like we were waiting for it to get funny. It was a decent idea that just didn't go anywhere. And when the rest of your competition showed up and brought it, that's just not good enough. Orion lands in the bottom two from her performance, and I completely agree. Next up was Cornbread, and I loved it. The song was good, the performance was better. You know, Cornbread was selling it. Cornbread was funny. Cornbread was interesting. Cornbread was talented, and that performance got her the win. What a week that must have been for Cornbread. You know, you get to go and perform in front of your drag idol, RuPaul, on the biggest drag stage in the world. And on top of it, you performed, your original song in front of Lizzo. That what an incredible week, and on top of it, take home the win. Definitely Cornbread will be one to look out for this season. Lastly, we had Willow close out the talent show. There was a lot of concern going into this. You know, it was described as a little mix of lip sync and a self-care story, and really, like, that's all we had to go on. So it's like, what is Willow going to do? And I thought Willow's performance was incredible. It was funny, you know. She was with it the entire time. When that moment, like the start, she pours the wine into the tub. I'm like, okay. And then she went over to the table with the spaghetti. And my first thought that popped in my head was, oh my God, please put it in the tub. Please put it in the tub. And of course, it goes in the tub. The toast goes in the tub. The toaster goes in the tub. And Willow goes into the tub. I was loving it. And, you know, felt like a little bit of redemption from the way everyone was looking at and acting towards Willow up to that point in the show. Everyone had underestimated Willow, including myself, and Willow absolutely brought it and put herself on every single person's radar. All right, next up, let's jump over to the runway. June, what a step up from the first look. Look, the first look for June was not good. Just looked like she just kind of threw something on. You know, I don't care if it's brand name. I don't care if it's designer. You got to put a little more thought and effort into it. And for the look on the second runway, she did. The few details that weren't quite there, but this was a vast improvement from the first look we saw. Bosco, I got very similar vibes from opening look to runway look. You know, maybe this look was a little bit more refined, but honestly, just gave me those same vibes for Bosco. Alyssa Hunter, you know, I already said this before, but kind of feels like she is going to be the look queen from the first 7. Carrie Colby, absolutely stunning. Looks like a model. Had her brand out there on display. Everyone was loving it. She looked great. Might even be the best look from the runway. Orion Story, it was fun, but you know, honestly, I didn't really get it. Like, it was like she kind of had some fun ideas, similar to what happened for the talent show. She had a fun idea, but you know, maybe didn't quite execute it well enough. Cornbread, all I wrote down was the line, fat, black, and uncomfortable. I love that line. You know, she said, yeah, I'm all those things. Looked great on the runway. Giving us a little bit of Lizzo out there while Lizzo was there. Very good. Willow Pill, you know, I get what Willow was kind of going for, like have that little note of fashion and then splash it with something ugly, but just didn't quite work for me. I think a strong look on the runway could have had Willow in contention for the win this week, but you know, she lands safe and will be back again. Well, I guess not next week, 2 weeks. Cornbread takes the win for week 1, and Orion and June end up in the bottom 2. Overall, performances were solid this week, and I would go far enough to say that, you know, I think everybody deserves a second week after this opening performance. It was pretty solid. Like even the bottom end, it wasn't a disaster. Like June and Orion, like their performances weren't disasters. They just needed to be a little bit better. Like even if Orion had one more really funny line in that performance, that might have been enough to bump Orion out of the bottom 2. June, you know, even just not having that headband come down and having the bike shorts covered up, or just not have them, would have been, you know, maybe enough, like those little details enough to get them out of the bottom 2. So you know, June, well deserved win in the lip sync. She was just superior to Orion. Let's be real there. She was feeling the song, gave the better performance, and Shantae, you stay and sashay away for Orion. I do hope that Orion gets another chance here, because like I said, it feels a little unfair for have somebody go home week one when we really just haven't seen anything from them. We'll have to see if there's a twist after next week. Fingers crossed, I hope so. This episode definitely left me wanting more, and very excited for this season. You know, the last few seasons of Drag Race, you know, not necessarily just US, but like Canada, UK, Australia, you know, I haven't really had that big connection to a lot of the drag queens, like had somebody I was really rooting for, and I already am feeling that this season, so it has me very excited. A few last notes from Untucked before we get out of here. First off, whose idea was it to give the queens cans? Like every other season, you grab a glass, go sit down. Here we have all these cans with koozies on them, and everyone's in drag trying to open these cans. That's just a bad idea. Just bring back cups, bring cups back. It's not that hard, unless everybody ordered up a Bud Light or something. Bring back cups for all of our queens. I really enjoyed Willow on Untucked. Kind of got into that whole the other queens underestimating her. And it's not like Willow, it wasn't Willow having attitude, it was the other queens straight up saying like, hey, look, I underestimated you and you put on a show. Really liked seeing that. Overall, seemed like we've got a very good group of queens. I say six because, you know, Bosco was in the background trying to get in a little bit of attitude, and I didn't like seeing that right out of the gate, especially when the vibe from the other six queens was absolutely one of love. Orion, I wish we would have got to see a few more of those looks in that suitcase, because as she was packing up, there were some bizarre things going into that suitcase. And you know, I like that kind of drag. Like somebody like Utica, you know, that really interests me. Evie Oddly, like I love that kind of queen where you don't know what you're gonna get. You know, Crystal Method, I love that sort of stuff. And you know, it looked like the looks that were going in that suitcase. Like there was one, it was just like a dress of rubber gloves. I wanted to see what that was. I wanted to see that, and hopefully we'll at least get another shot of Orion's story. Hopefully some sort of twist, but we will have to see. All right, that is it for me, a week one. Rambled a lot more than I expected. I'm just excited about this season. It looks like it is going to be a good one. Can't wait for next Friday to meet our other 7 queens. And we'll have to see if they can stand up to those first 7, because our first 7 were really damn good. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we'll see you later.